Thank you very much. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you, organizers, for giving me this opportunity to chair the two memorial lectures. Let me give you a very brief introduction about the two geographers who had made immense contribution. Some of you may have read their works. Let me begin with A.B. Mukherjee Sahab, because A.B. Mukherjee Sahab was, in terms of age, was slightly senior to Professor Ahmad. I may be wrong also. But both of them, they worked together on social and cultural aspects. But A.B. Mukherjee had a larger kind of a coverage. He was also a geomorphologist. He worked on rural settlements, particularly in the Himalayas. He worked in Punjab University and had generations of students who worked under him, and he nurtured the Department of Geography there, particularly the human and the cultural aspect, because that was a department which was predominantly working on population-related issues. So this is how departments diversify. Professor Ahmad, his full name is Professor Aijazuddin Ahmad. He worked at AMU from 1962 onwards, and there is a small documentary that I have made on Professor Ahmad. It's available on YouTube, so you can take a look at his work. He can be called, and I am absolutely emphatic about the fact that social geography of the kind that we know of in India is a product of Professor Aijazuddin Ahmad's initiative, and he was not alone in this initiative. He worked tirelessly with Professor Munis Raza. So these three people who, in fact, A.B. Mukherjee, Professor Ahmad, and Professor Raza, Munis Raza, two of them worked in the Center for the Study of Regional Development, JNU, were my teachers. I also spent a greater amount of my academic career at JNU. Over to professors who are going to deliver the memorial lectures. Professor Bhagat is a much senior geographer, worked at Guwahati University for a very, very long period of time. He nurtured the department in a way with Professor, I'm forgetting his name, but Professor...
H.P. Das.
Huh?
H.P. Das.
And the other gentleman? Professor Tahir. I'm so sorry. I delivered Professor Tahir's memorial lecture, worked on his works, but Professor Tahir, I think Professor Tahir and Professor Bhagavati were contemporaries in many respects, and Professor Bhagavati also has a lot of memories of association with Professor A.B. Mukherjee. Professor R.B. Bhagat he has worked on variety of areas, population, migration, urban related issues, and social, of course. I mean, in fact, if I were to say that amongst the second generation after Professor Ahmad, if there is a social geographer worth name who has contributed immensely, I would place Professor R.B. Bhagat's name, although he worked outside the departments of geography and has brought in the geographical orientations in whatever that he really carried out through his academic career. Worked at MD University Rohtak. When I left Rohtak, he moved in. So that's how, our association has been there. And let me tell you very frankly, whenever I used to speak with Professor Ahmad, he would always ask about R.B. Bhagat. So there has been an organic linkage between the kind of geography Professor R.B. Bhagat has been doing and the kind of geography that was there in the minds, social geography that was there in the minds of Professor Aijazuddin Ahmad. So let me invite Professor R.B. Bhagat for the third Professor Aijazuddin Ahmad Memorial Lecture to the dais. Professor Bhagat, sir.
Thank you, Professor Sinha, for your encouraging comments. colleagues and friends. It is my honor and privilege to deliver a memorial lecture as a mark of respect to my beloved teacher, Professor Aijazuddin Ahmad, a distinguished professor, researcher, guide, and mentor to many of us who are attending this conference. I joined JNU CSRD 1982-84, and I was a keen student of social geography and also historical geography, which Professor Ahmad used to teach at CSRD JNU. I continued my association even after I left JNU, met him whenever there was an opportunity, and learned a lot from him. At the outset, I would like to thank IIG and Department of Geography, HN Bauguna Garhwal University for inviting me. And I have titled this lecture as Demography, Social Identity and Social Justice, a Relational Perspective in Social Geography. Some of you who have studied in CSRD may recall that in CSRD there were two strong streams. One was social stream, otherwise the population stream. Both the streams have enriched the geography program at CSRD, but at the same time, there were some discomfort, and but although it was very competitive. So looking at this, that should we have population processes or demographic processes and social processes to be understood independently? Or population geography or social geography should have independent existence? Or are there relationships between the two which can enrich each other? So this is the issue that is I have been thinking about, and I am convinced that there is some problem of theorization. There is some problem of how we conceive population processes and social processes. And this is a theoretical issue, this is an onto-epistemological issue. Time is short, so I will not delve into that aspect. I will directly come to the legacy of Professor Ahmad and try to connect with the title of today's talk, Demography, Social Identities and Social Justice, a Relational Perspective in Social Geography. I also like to recall at the moment Professor M.K. Premi, who was also one of the pillars of population program at CSRD, and who encouraged me to join IIPS, where I did my PhD and later I retired as professor. So when we see Professor Ahmad was a pioneer social geographer who established social geography, its course content, and promoted the subdiscipline along with Professor Munish Raja at CSRD JNU from 1972 to 1997. He also trained a number of scholars who have taught or teaching social geography in different universities in India. As the numbers are large, it is not easy for me to name them. Professor Ahmad extensively explored the spatial dimension of tribe, caste, language, religion as elements of social structure and social relationship, contributing significantly in the understanding the complex Indian social reality, and always focused on issues of inequality, marginalization, and social justice from the geographical perspective. His main concern in social geography was how components of social structure like tribe, caste, language, dialect, and religion are spatially organized. He contributed significantly to the understanding of tribal communities, socioeconomic status of scheduled caste, and the evolution of language and dialects and their geographical distribution, region formation, social identities, and social well-being. When I started social geography course at Maharishi Dayanand University, Rohtak in 1995, as Professor Sinha has already told, Professor Sinha left 1988 and I joined there, but the social geography was not there for another 5 to 6 years, and we could start in 1995, which I taught till 2002. So I showed the syllabus to Professor Ahmad, and Professor Ahmad immediately told me that something is missing in your syllabus, and that was the element of language. So Professor Ahmad always believed that caste and religious identities are embedded in linguistic identities. For example, Hindus and Muslims in West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, or other states of India speak same language, reflecting the shared identities and several cultural attributes. His research has also shown that bilingualism and multilingualism has been a growing tendency in different parts of India. Language, thus, not a dividing factor, but a connecting one in diverse Indian social context, and he was the sole geographer with expertise in linguistic geography in India, with several PhD produced under his guidance at CSRD JNU. In many of his works, demographic parameters like size, growth, composition, distribution of social groups were at the core of his methodological analysis to understand the changing nature of social structure and social relationship. His passion for demographic characteristics and demographic transition is also evident in many of his writings, most importantly reflected in his edited book like Mountain Population Pressure, which Professor Ahmad published in 1990, and Demographic Transition, another edited book which Professor Ahmad published in 1997. He was also involved in various national and international geographical organizations, including Commission on Population Geography, established by International Geographical Union. So, in several of his social and geographical works, Professor Ahmad completely devoted the analysis to census data. In a colossal work known as an Atlas of Tribal India, in collaboration with Professor Munis Raja, Professor Ahmad analyzed and mapped large data from 1961 to 1971 census. And it was not simply an atlas, but much more than representing tribal communities. But he was aware the limitation of census data and always emphasized the field work. We also see that Professor Ahmad made monumental contribution in writing the textbook, not only edited book, textbook. And the textbook on social geography, which was published in 1997, has grown out of his teaching and research in social geography over more than 2 decades at CSRD JNU. It presents an in-depth social geographical interpretation of India and highlights not only complex social phenomena, but also elements of unity in diversity. The book consists of 8 chapters, a lucid and scholarly treatise reflecting the essence of chapter. Just reading the metaphor in the titles, one can understand what includes in the book. For example, the chapter on tribes is titled Between the Two Worlds. The chapter on caste, Everyone in One's Own Place. Then language, a bridge, not a cleavage. And religion, caste in a regional mold. He was not only a scholar par excellence, but a person avant-garde, whose linguistic skill, both in oratory and writing, has been enchanting. This we have experienced in his class. It has put a pressure on us and was a source of motivation to develop our communicating and writing skills. In some of my conversation with him, I found Professor Ahmad was keen to know how his works of social geography were received in the sister disciplines like sociology and social anthropology. We know little about it, although we know that disciplinary boundaries are very rigid and communication across discipline has been negligible, despite our desire for advancing interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary perspective. Professor Ahmad recalled in one of his writings that an eminent urban expert and town planner, Patrick Gates, was called upon to establish a department of sociology at the University of Bombay in 1919, and his writings bridged in a big way the gap between geography and other social sciences. Also, the CSRD experiment in JNU in 1970s did pave the way of geography to place itself in the realm of social sciences in India. And Professor Ahmad and Professor Muniz Raza's contribution were immense in this direction. The core of social geography are social structure, social relationship, norms, social practices, shaping the internal and external relationship of social groups, what sociologists call social stratification. Historically, the social relation embodied in social stratification has been unequal, evident in the form of caste, class, and race, and also deeply embedded in families, schools, workplaces, and various social and political institutions. It thus clashes with the ideals and values of freedom, equality, fraternity enshrined in the Constitution of India. The relationship of state and people is ideally defined as citizenship, transcending the primordial identities, but the differential access to resources and power and privilege continue to haunt and challenge the social order. State attempts to resolve the issue of social injustice through public policy, which are hotly debated. Please recall that the social structure doesn't exist in vacuum, but are influenced by social, economic, political, and demographic changes, although the demographic change as a determinant of social and political reality is little emphasized in social science literature. But what is happening in today? Today, demography is not a discipline, just quantity discipline and number, but the demographic imagination is shaping the sociological and political imagination of this country. And therefore, the relationship between the two cannot be separated. We need to understand the relationship between the two in a theoretical way, which can pave the way for empirical understanding. So it is not just coincidental that the term both demography and democracy originated from a common Greek word demos, means people. Tim Dyson, who is going to deliver a lecture in this afternoon, he argues that the emergence of democracy couldn't have been possible in a high mortality situation with low life expectancy before the middle of the 17th century. With fertility decline associated with independence and empowerment of women further expanded the voting rights to them in most of the parts of the Western countries by 1930s. If you see the origin of democracy in Western world, and that starts from French Revolution in 1779, it was also the period when mortality started declining. So mortality declined for the first time. It was some sort of a confidence, imparting confidence to the people that we can shape our future. Similarly, if you look at India, what is happening after 1921? Now, 1921 is considered to be great demographic divide, and also the arrival of Mahatma Gandhi and launching of the non-cooperation movement. And it was also the period when mortality started declining in this country. So mortality decline has shaped not only just population growth, but also the social structure, the democratic democratic processes, and etc. So the relationship, just I am trying to connect with that. As democracy is about the people, the demographic changes profoundly influence the institution of state and citizenship, which defines their rights, entitlement, and privileges, ensuring justice to all and discrimination to none, unless the social condition warrants application of positive discrimination based on social justice. Demographic changes are not about just size of the group claiming the rights and entitlement, but also related to socioeconomic deprivation, closely linked to demographic characteristics such as age, sex, structure, geographic distribution, and urbanization. Life chances such as mortality and morbidity captured through the indicators of life expectancy, death rate, birth rate, migration. In this context, conditions of the older persons, status of women, access to food, nutrition, education to children, and other conditions of migrants and many other issues raise many ethical and policy concerns linked to socioeconomic inequalities, which inhibit the capability and agencies of social groups affecting their social well-being. If we look at history of population geography, within geography, population did not find a distinct place in geography until G.T. Tripartha, a climatologist and physical geographer, in his presidential address to the Association of American Geographers in 1953, raised this issue that geography cannot be just man and environment relationship, but it has three components. These three components are population, natural earth, and cultural earth. All three areas are interrelated in a dynamic way, leading to the evolution of cultural forms. And he explained that natural earth as a home of man who transforms materials extracted from the nature to the products and also consumes the fruits of his work. So Tripartha brought population as a central aspect of geographical analysis. It is the population which produces the material aspects of life and also consumes, and therefore we cannot neglect the aspects of population in geographical analysis. And if we consider this aspect, then population geography integrates well with social and other geography. He also wrote the greatest transformation of natural area results when population is not only numerous, but likewise advanced in technology. We also find that, as I mentioned, that Professor Ahmad has also worked in the areas of demographic transition and various aspects of population composition and distribution. I may recall that Joseph Schwartzberg, a distinguished geographer and a close co-researcher of Professor Ahmad, emphasized demographics of caste as a potential area of research, adopting a regional and diachronic approach. In another significant work by Kasinath Singh, presents the dynamics of caste and class territorialization with population growth. Both these monumental works have been appeared in an edited book by Professor Ahmad, it is entitled as Social Structure and Regional Development. I also contributed one chapter, and this book was facilitated by Professor Sinha to its publication. In addition, Professor Ahmad has taken a massive research work based on large-scale household survey to understand socioeconomic conditions of Muslims in India, particularly in Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Delhi during the mid-90s. Notwithstanding, it may be noted that relationship between population and social structure has found little attention and hardly theorized. The linkage between demography and sociology has been weak, particularly in India. The same has been true for the relationship between demography and geography as well. There is certainly a need to change our theoretical lens and philosophical vision to understand the emerging challenges and opportunities unleashed by population dynamics as a driver of social, economic, and political changes, and vice versa. A truly multidisciplinary approach cannot afford to leave mega demographic changes such as far below replacement fertility levels in many parts of the world, rising elderly population across the world, massive mobility and migration, and rapid urbanization shaping our social and political life. This gap could be bridged conceivably when we place people and their characteristics at the center of the discipline with an onto-epistemological perspective that various dimensions of people's life, such as demographic, social, and economic and political, are intertwined and mutually reinforcing, although not always positive consequences we witness in various types of researches. So what is happening in our social science, that some knowledge is superior than others, and that is what we need to challenge. All knowledges, whether it is demographic, social, economic, are important, mutually enforcing. So this is some sort of ontological, epistemological issue. Are some knowledge better? Are some knowledge superior? And is there hierarchy in the knowledge? But this is happening. Unfortunately, there is a hierarchy in the knowledge, and those who are the hierarchy in those who produce the knowledge, the producers of the knowledge, and therefore our academic system is highly hierarchical. It is not, caste is not simply there in our society. Caste is there in the sphere of knowledge production. So this is how we need to reconceptualize. Then we see that the various dimensions are equally important. The success of democracy for the people, by the people, and of the people cannot be realized without a state policy for social justice as an instrument of advancing well-being of the people. As space and times are important axes of social reality, social spatial justice of who gets what and where must form a vital component of social justice and the role of social geography in meeting the social objectives, along with population census of this country in 2027. This is a challenge. We are going to see that how population census includes caste census. It is not just about number, but it is about the social and economic conditions of the caste group. The last point, just 2 minutes. Data plays very crucial role in understanding social reality and also demographic understanding. And it will be pertinent to recall that in one of my conversations in early 90s with Professor Ahmad, I told him that census data provides size and growth of religious groups, but does not give data on education and occupational status by religious group in the census. So he advised me that why don't you write a paper? And I wrote a paper, and he happily published in Annals of Nagy as chief editor in 1994. He was chief editor of Annals. And this was a great encouragement for me and motivation to understand how demographic processes are related with social processes and unfolding the politics through data and imagination, sociological imagination. So I personally owe a great deal to him, and thank again IIG and Department of Geography at Bhagat University, here Garhwal, for giving this opportunity. At last, Professor Aijazuddin Ahmad will always be remembered by his pioneering work in social geography, adopting a historical and geographical approach in understanding social reality, his concern for social justice, and his key role in shaping regional development of program at JNU will always go a long way in the history of geography discipline. Thank you very much.